and welcome to another episode of the Darkives. I'm Jamie talking to Leo,
And I'm Leo listening to Jamie.
and this week we are going to be getting into the Paris Catacombs.
Nice. I know I've heard things about people being buried in walls underneath.
The walls are the people.
Okay, that's about all I know from this. I know there's skulls around. I'm envisioning skulls laying around, skulls poking out of walls, and like hollow rooms where there's just people in them.
Okay.
And I don't know how much of that is true and how much of that is Hollywood.
I was going to say, are you getting some of your imagery from As Above, So Below?
I may be.
That's such a good movie.
But that's what I'm seeing in my head.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, we're going to get into the real tale of them, how they came to be, what they are now, and what they used to be.
Nice. Very cool. And also, I wanted to do a quick announcement that we are up on some major socials now. We have Instagram
And YouTube.
and YouTube at Darkives Podcast is our handle everywhere.
So yeah, you guys can see little announcements for upcoming episodes, see some visuals to go with episodes that have already been released, can send some love letters, hate mail. We'll read it.
Yeah. And also, sharing us on socials is always appreciated. That is like the biggest compliment we can get is you guys thinking of other people that might enjoy our content.
All right, announcements out of the way. You ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's get started.
Let's get into the dark history of the Paris Catacombs. Starting in December of 1785, bodies of the dead were stealthily removed at night from cemeteries and placed into the Paris Catacombs. On April 7th of 1786, the consecration of the Paris Municipal Ossuary was official. Now let's talk about the walls of the dead hidden beneath the city of love. Back in the 1st century AD, open pit quarries were being created in the Parisian area by the Romans to harvest the limestone that was under the surface.
Okay, what were they using the limestone for?
Eventually, it would be used in the Louvre, Notre Dame, the Arc de Triomphe, big important buildings around there. Obviously, those weren't being created in the 1st century, but the Parisian limestone itself would be used to build some of the most famous buildings in Paris.
Okay, cool. So just creating big, extravagant limestone buildings.
Part of it was even used for the Palace of Versailles.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so good stuff down there, but they were making open pit quarries to start with. By the 14th century, they had started making underground quarries instead of the open pit. About 65 feet down, they were kind of making like tunnel quarries. This led to a vast 186-mile or 300-kilometer long spiderweb network beneath the bustling streets of Paris. It's been described as like the city is Swiss cheese.
Yeah, I imagine kind of like the inside view of like an anthill.
Yeah, kind of. But could you see a potential problem with doing this?
Definitely structure issues.
There will be some structural issues with this. You create tunnels and they're fairly big. Some of them are just little hidey holes, but you walk in them. Like you have room to walk, move your arms, everything. Like it's a decent sized tunnel, only 65 feet underground. 186 miles of that could lead to some...
Try to put a building on top of that and you got a big collapse coming in.
Yeah, a little cave-in, which is exactly what happened in 1744. A massive sinkhole opened and swallowed about 300 kilometers or almost 1,000 feet of roadways, houses, and people on what is today Avenue Denfert, Rochereau. After several more collapses in the following years, King Louis XVI, who, fun fact, was Marie Antoinette's husband, he signed a decree that prohibited extracting more stones, things like that, from beneath the roadways. And he did that on September 15th of 1776. On April 4th of 1777, so just a few months later, Louis then creates the Inspection Générale des Carrières.
What the hell is that?
the General de Carrier, or the IGC. He put this together to map out, stabilize, and maintain the underground quarries.
Okay. So adding supports and figuring out where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, so they would go down and place kind of like limestone pillars to literally like hold the ceilings up.
Yeah, it's reinforcement.
Yeah. So that's what this little committee was formed for. They would go down, make sure everything was good, any weak spots, put some support, and they were finally mapping out this giant labyrinth under the ground. About 3 years later, in 1780, Paris's largest and oldest cemetery, Saints Innocents, was closed due to overcrowding and unsanitary conditions. This place, they would create open pits and then just throw bodies in there until it was full and then cover it up.
There's just a big pile of bodies in a hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did like mass burials there. The problem with this was that it could take a little bit of time to get enough people into this pit before they could cover it. So just open air decomp, which is about as appealing as you would think it is.
Stinky.
Stinky. Decomp gases everywhere. So I saw 2 stories on this. Either a partition gave way and the bodies of the dead fell into the cellar of a restaurant owner. Like, I guess cheap walls.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking wild. Literally, like the side of a basement collapsed and just spilled a bunch of bodies into it.
Mm-hmm. Or in the spring of 1780, residents of the Rue de la Lingerie on the western edge of the Holy Innocents Cemetery began to complain of respiratory issues, vomiting, and delirium. When inspectors came to investigate, they found that the gases from the decomposing bodies had burst through the cellar walls and risen to the ground floor of at least 3 homes. So the decomp gases were literally seeping up through their floorboards.
Yeah, when you said burst, I was like, what? Like they blew through the wall? And probably like they seeped through, kind of like radon and stuff works.
Mm-hmm.
The gas kind of went through fissures in the foundation and then worked its way, filled the basements and went up through the top.
Yeah, seep was a better word for it. It literally the gases would come up and it was making people sick. I'm not shocked by that. But either way, we got a problem with dead bodies in basements. A historian named Rosemary Wakeman wrote, human decomposition mixed with the blood and guts of the market with piles of rubbish to form a putrid stench, a dangerous effluence that made Le Hall an axis of infection and disease. So germ theory wasn't really a thing yet, but even back then, they recognized that it was kind of a recognition that people who lived closer to this cemetery were more likely to get sick.
Yeah, because it's nasty over there.
Because it's nasty over there. Didn't know why, they just knew that it was happening. All's this to say is that between the conditions and the overcrowding, this cemetery is closing right around the same time that the king is getting people down in to the quarries to map it, clean it, stabilize it, and do all that. This takes us back to the beginning where I mentioned in December of 1785, they were doing nightly body removals. So they started taking the bodies out of the cemetery and putting it down into the quarries. Efficient.
They were just rehoming bodies?
Oh, yeah, big time. They were doing this at night so that the Parisians, they weren't offended.
So people didn't see dead people getting carried around all day?
Mm-hmm. So that way they weren't watching corpses and bones, bodies in various stages of decomp. They weren't being moved in the middle of the day when people are trying to take their mid-afternoon walk. This takes us to 1786, when the cemetery was emptied out, and we now have the Paris Municipal Ossuary consecrated. Let's get into the actual cemetery part of the catacombs, because not the entire thing is overflowing with the bones of long dead people. Did you know that?
Yeah, I don't know much about it, but I thought there was people all throughout the walls.
I did too. I was actually very surprised to find out that the whole thing is not all cemetery underground. From 1787 to 1814, bones from all the local parochial cemeteries were transferred down to the catacombs. So they started taking all the dead people who were put into like local church cemeteries, and all of them were starting to be moved underground now.
The catacombs just became the central place to put bodies now.
Mm-hmm. It was efficient. I mean, it's underground, it's out of the way.
It's already there.
People are technically still buried, I guess. During the French Revolution, the dead were directly deposited down there, and there was no distinction from like nobility to the common person. That was a big deal. You know, these people weren't being separated in death anymore. Now you could have a high ranking official being put next to a peasant.
Yeah, were they just stacking bodies at this point? They just walked down to a corridor dead end and then they said, okay, let's fill this corridor up and keep going to the next one?
Yeah, they would just lay them like flat out and just let them rot. Some notable people who are buried down, well, I guess not buried, who are placed down in the catacombs include Charles Perrault. He was the original author of Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Little Red Riding Hood. Maximilien Robespierre, who was a controversial but important figure during the Reign of Terror during the French Revolution. And Salomon de Brossy, who designed the Luxembourg Palace in Paris.
Oh, some notable names.
Yeah. Other suspected burials are people who died from the plague, because you figure they were pulling up everybody out of these cemeteries. So, you know, who knows how far back it goes, especially from the Saints Innocent Cemetery. That was the oldest, longest running cemetery in Paris. People who died from leprosy, syphilis, and just other general diseases. People who were poisoned, natural deaths, people who were in roadway accidents.
Yeah, so they're just throwing everybody down here.
Take a guess at how many people are actually placed down there in the catacombs. Now, before you do, the population of Paris today is about 2.15 million people. That's above ground. How many are below ground?
About 80 years, and you dug up a bunch of cemeteries. Well, how many people died a year?
Ballpark me.
I don't know. There's 500,000 people under there.
There are 6 million people buried down there. 3 times the population of present-day Paris. Isn't that crazy?
Pretty wild.
It is so much. I didn't realize. There are so many people down there. In 1809, Napoleon Bonaparte opened the catacombs to the public. So now people could go in and take little tours of all of our dead and decomposing fellow Parisians. It was a tourist destination where people could mourn all those lost during the revolution, which is what a lot of people, like right after, they would do. It was kind of just like a open funeral for everybody. You could just go down there and weep silently to yourself.
Mourn the loss of all these people that you don't know who's who, and it's just a mass mourning.
Mass mourning, yeah. That's a good word for it.
So, wow, look at this tragedy of all these different people throughout time.
Well, I'm sure they were quite easy to distinguish the people who died a few months ago versus the people we dug up from the cemetery. Some people just went out of morbid curiosity, just for the fun of watching and looking and smelling. It's gotta smell bad. I don't know. Some people liked it.
You think they just went out there to smell it?
I don't think they went there just to smell it. Morbid curiosity will get you around some stinky scents.
Suppose.
Fun fact, there's a little sign above the entrance that says, "Stop. The Empire of Death lies here."
Now
that's metal.
That's a cool sign right there.
That's metal.
Yeah. The Empire of Death.
That is a common nickname for it. Instead of like the Paris Catacombs, people started calling it the Empire of Death.
I like that.
That's pretty sick, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Between 1810 and 1814, Inspector Hericart de Thury organized the bones into a more visually pleasing kind of site. Femurs and tibias, mixed with a little sprinkling of skulls, now served as walls to hold back the ocean of bones tossed behind them. So picture that.
So they would fill up a whole corridor, basically, with bones,
Mhm.
and then make a full wall out of bones to block the corridor off.
No, it's along the sides of it.
Oh, so they just decorated the walls with bones.
Yeah, but they did it really pretty. I want you to look at this picture, and I think this will give you a pretty good idea of what they were doing here. We're going to put these pictures up on our socials. Check them out.
So this is floor to ceiling bones with a little bit of decorative skulls lining the walls.
Yeah, there's a few places where the skulls were artfully arranged into like the shape of a cross. They're making art out of these people's heads. And so, with these walls that they built in some parts of the catacombs, the rest of the bones are literally just like thrown behind that foot wall just to hold back the ocean of bones from spilling out.
Yeah, that's a lot of bones.
Art.
Can I go there today to see this?
Yeah. Yeah, they do public tours. Still.
That's cool.
Yeah. By 1860, the last of the bones were placed down there, and it was then, and is still today, just used as a tourist destination. This was a fun fact that I learned, but only about a mile of the tunnel system is actually used in this regard. Only about a mile out of like 186 miles of tunnels.
Yeah, it's a lot of people to put into 1 mile of tunnels.
Well, when they're bone, it's easy. Think of how many people would require to be dead to be even on just one wall, you know? We only have so many fibias and tibias and skulls.
True.
The rest of the tunnels contain like old water pits, and there are some notable rooms, one of which is room Z, which is known for its like high vaulted ceilings, and a lot of people go down there to party. There's the beach room, which is a room that has sand all over the floor, and the castle room, which features gargoyles, benches, tables, and a little reconstruction of a medieval castle.
These are all things that were placed there after for the tourists.
Well, a lot of it is off limits to the public. So there are a group of people called the Cataphiles, and it's kind of like urban exploration for them. They go down and they will map out and find like their own secret rooms and stuff like that. A huge chunk of these catacombs is absolutely covered in like graffiti and wall art, which some of it is very like skillfully done. There are some pretty little murals down there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen cool street art and stuff, but to do that over people's remains and
It's not in those parts.
it's just in parts of the catacombs?
In the tunnel system.
Okay.
They're not spray painting over the bones. They're just spray painting in other parts of the tunnel that were at one point used for mining the limestone.
They're just sneaking in and hitting it with that spray?
Partying down there, having gatherings. They do a lot down there illegally. They're not supposed to be, but I mean, stop a cataphile. You can't.
So all these rooms are built by the cataphiles, what you're saying?
No, all these rooms were built previously for mining, trying to get the limestone out.
No, but the sandy floors, the mini castle, these rooms that you say people like to party in, I thought that was part of the exhibit, but these are rooms that people have basically broken into
Yes.
and either created or whatever.
Yeah, I guess when you word it like that, yeah. Certain rooms down there have been used for things like storage, mushroom farming, partying, and just thrill seekers trying to explore some of the off-limit areas. During World War II, it was actually used as a hiding base for the French resistance, and also the Nazis used it as a bomb shelter. And you can still see like the remnants left over from it. Like kind of rotted out benches, an old toilet that the Nazis used.
Latrine.
Latrine, thank you, yes.
Do you know only in America we call them bathrooms?
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, because everywhere else it's a washroom. Where you wash yourself is a washroom.
I
That's where
guess.
you wash.
Why? I've also
They
used.
they say why do you Americans say bathroom, because it's you don't take a bath when you go in there.
No, but why is it also referred to as a restroom?
Well, I think that's also an American thing. I honestly think it's the toilet or your washroom. In Europe, I want to say that's what it is. I want to say it's you're either going to the toilet because you're using the toilet, or you're going to the washroom to wash up.
The powder room. Heard it called the powder room too. Europeans, please confirm or deny these statements. Let us know the correct term. That is the dark, morbid history of the Paris catacombs. What'd you think? Learned something new today?
Yeah, it was pretty cool finding out that they only used about a mile of it for what I was imagining was the people, like the bones on the walls and things like that. How many people they shoved into that
I know.
section is pretty wild,
Yeah.
but it's mostly because literally they made walls out of bones of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty cool.
I know. I also found that one pretty fun just for the history of it. Like, I didn't realize why they had put these people down there. I just knew that they were down there.
It is kind of wild to think that nobility could be right next to a farmer, and then now those same people could have been like gathered up, and some of their bones are shoved behind the walls, and some of their bones are part of the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all just jumbled up down there.
Yeah. No separation, which I find kind of fun for that time period because where you were buried, like, mattered. They had certain cemeteries for different classes of life. So for all of them to just be put down there together, it is what it is. No separation.
You dead, you dead.
You dead, you dead.
Get in those catacombs.
Yep. I just found that all to be very fascinating. Pretty morbid, pretty gross, but pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's fun.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Darkives. Hope you guys all learned something new this week. Join us next week as we uncover another Darkive together.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Adieu!